Welcome to episode 4 of Art Talk Tuesday. I have before me my second piece in the Ascension series. Last week I talked about Ascension 1, the Son of Man Ascends, which focused on the ascension of Jesus from a Christian perspective. Here we're looking at Ascension 2, Rise of the Buddha nature. So we're looking at the whole idea of enlightenment and ascension expansion from the Buddhist perspective. You notice the piece last week was very tall vertically and kind of thin horizontally. This piece we see is very wide horizontally, but rather thin vertically. I'm doing that on purpose because there are two pieces that I'm making a statement about the nature of enlightenment, the nature of expansion, which we expand as a whole. So we want a whole idea of expansion, not just up or down, but in every way. So we're thinking about this from a more holistic perspective. This piece is 48 inches wide by 36 inches tall. We're going to jump right in here and begin to just talk about it a little bit. I wanted to do something special with the colors for this piece because I wanted to show a sense of light and depicting an otherworldly reality. Many people in near-death experience talk about how when they saw colors that were so vivid and bright, and they looked well beyond, fantastic beyond any colors that we would see in normal everyday life. So I wanted to kind of give this piece a kind of sense of alternate reality. I do that with a lot of my pieces in the choice for my palette, choosing colors that always you wouldn't really normally see together because I want to give that sense of an alternate reality or an otherworldly kind of feel to them. So also from a frequency perspective, the colors that we see on the spectrum that we think of as very bright are actually lower vibration colors in terms of frequency. Bright reds, oranges, deep bright yellows, they're actually lower frequency than the pastel colors that we see in the spectrum. Pastel colors have a higher frequency and carry more vibration. So I wanted to give that idea too here. So that's symbolic with the higher, lighter pastel colors. We're going in here looking at the dark areas here, these dark blue areas. These symbolize lower states of consciousness, lower states of being, and the darkness, being in the dark. Because when we talk about enlightenment, it has the word light in it. So we're looking at this whole notion, the idea of light, illumination, of understanding, of knowledge, and seeing. And that light breaks through and pushes back, and in many cases eliminates the darkness. So that's what I'm playing with here. This light is busting through, breaking through, eliminating, pushing back the darkness. I did the same thing in the piece last week. So that's what we're playing with here. These four figures here are the four adepts. You can see in these four adepts, each one of them in a different state of meditation or exaltation. And they all have an aura around them, but their aura is incomplete. If you look at the Buddha's aura here, there are many more colors in this aura because he's reached a higher state of expansion, a higher state of enlightenment and being. And so they are still followers and have not achieved this higher state yet. But they're getting there, as we all are. We're on the path. Also, these four adepts also represent the fourfold path of Buddhism, or the Four Noble Truths we talk about in Buddhism. The first is that there is suffering. The second is that suffering is due to our attachments and cravings and desires. Third is that we can alleviate suffering. And the fourth is that we must follow the path. And by following the path, we alleviate our suffering by purifying ourselves of these cravings, unhealthy cravings and desires, and these attachments, and through prayer and meditation and other exercise. So that's that notion there. That's what we're playing with here. Also, Bodhi tree here in silhouette. It is said, if you ever read the story of Siddhartha, I highly recommend that you do if you haven't. He achieved enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. As I said last week, enlightenment, ascension is not an instantaneous thing that happens. It is an ever expanding and unfolding. He came to the same tree, sat down in the same spot, meditated and prayed, and did this for years until he finally was able to achieve a certain state or a certain level of vibration that allowed him to rise up. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. So I just wanted to focus on the idea. We're talking about expansion here. So Buddha, going to the tree, meditates. Eventually, he expands himself into a state where he can rise up. And we see this, we hear the myth about yogis in South Asia who can levitate and do other things. If we look at Star Wars and this whole notion of the death of Yoda, when Yoda died, he just dematerialized. We see that in the Bible when we talk about people like Enoch and Jesus just rising up into the heavens. So this notion of Buddha here achieving a state of vibration where he could rise up. So the Buddha rises up, we would think going into nirvana. And so he's here in the yogic pose of the full lotus, meditating, eyes closed, deep concentration, deep altered state. His aura here expanding. See the growth in colors, higher colors. And also it's circular because we see as the colors go out here, then they begin to repeat. So this whole idea of a holistic approach and consciousness being a state of oneness, a state of unity. Also, when we talk about this whole idea of enlightenment and looking at the notion of enlightenment, we need to remember that this is an ongoing process, and you may have peak experience. There are many people that have peak experience during meditation process. People have peak experience during worship services, and they have what we consider, people say, speaking in tongues, more officially known as glossolalia. So this whole idea of having this peak experience, but we're not meant to stay there. That's not supposed to be the norm for us. If every time you go up to the peak, you must come back down into the valley, because we're here to be in these bodies, in this world together, and to help one another. And the only way we can do that is if we stay here and actually go through and live out life as we begin to raise the total vibration of the whole universe and of the whole world and of the other human beings who we encounter by us doing our work that we're supposed to do. So I'm playing with that notion here. This eightfold rung here is symbolic of the Eightfold Path, the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. Okay, so we got the Fourfold Path, and then we had the Eightfold Way, and actually that is the symbol for Buddhism. It's a wagon wheel, basically like what would be on a ship that the captain would turn to steer the ship, and so it has 8 rungs on it. Right living, right livelihood, mindfulness, what do we got? Right understanding, and I forget the rest of them. I don't remember them now. I used to know. But that's basically what it is. So that's what we're dealing with here, the Buddha rising up. So this piece is valued at $3,300 should you choose to buy it. It is framed, matted, you see, ready to go. If you'd like, I could put a coat of varnish on it for you just to make sure that it's nice and shiny when you get it. But other than that, it's available. You can also get prints of this piece on my website, damonpowell.com. I think the cheapest price for one of these starts around $31 and goes up depending on what kind of things you want to go with it. If you want it matted and framed, all that kind of stuff. So that is that for this week. Hope to see you next week. Be well.